or China or Barbados or Suriname. You may be in Trinidad. You may be in wherever you are. I have a lady came yesterday when I was finished preaching. The baptism was finished and she came in. She said, listen, I want my blue gown. You held up the blue gown and I came for it. So when all the folk were gone to have their lunch, we had 2 more candles in the water. She didn't even find a blue gown, but she said the red one will do anyhow. Are you listening to me? She said, you said blue is loyalty. And I want to be loyal to God. I have your blue gown on my hand. Are you listening to me? Tonight is your decision and Saturday is your baptism. Are you listening to me? It's time to build back the old ways places. It's time to raise up the foundation that is being destroyed even by some churches. It's time, and God wants you to be in the group, to be numbered among the righteous. Are you listening to me? If the foundations are destroyed, what shall the righteous do? Take a stand. Take a stand for baptism. Take a stand for God's truth. Take a stand for God's Sabbath. Take a stand for Jesus. Stand up, stand up. He sold to the cross. Let the world know that you are not ashamed of Jesus, and you cannot love Jesus and hate the commandments of Jesus. You cannot have the salvation of Jesus and hate the Sabbath of Jesus. We've got to raise up the foundation. Are you listening to me? We've got to teach our children and our children's children that God's commandments are still binding. We've got to teach our children and our children's children that the 7th day is still God's Sabbath. We've got to teach our children and our children's children that shocking up and common law is not the way to go. That marriage is honorable and the bed is undefiled. We've got to teach our children that as far as God is concerned, marriage is still between a man and a woman. Are you listening to me? I've got your gown on my hand. But Paul's word to Timothy is not done. He said to Timothy, in the midst of this ungodly world, in the midst of a world where they are tearing down the foundation, in the midst of a world where godly homes are hard to find, in the midst of a world where children are weaned from the milk and they've gone into violence, in the midst of a world that's broken, he said to Timothy, I'm reading 2 Timothy 3 and verse 14. I got to read verse 13. Verse 13 said, but evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. The devil is a deceiver. The devil told Eve that if you do what I say, you shall not surely die. But we know now the devil to me, he said, evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. Well, Paul, how can Timothy be kept from deceiving? He said, watch this, verse 14, but continue thou in the things which thou hast learned and hast been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them. You've got to know who your teacher is. If your teacher is not teaching the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, you need to change the teacher. I said change school. Get out of that and come into what God says. He said, come out of her, my people.